Yay, so we are recording, and of course, because I didn't do this before we started, we know that it's not going to be calibrated. Like every video starts with this, because I forget to calibrate. I know. Okay, I've said this before, but eventually we'll catch on. When normally my computer is set up so what's on the computer screen is different than what's on the board. So it's calibrated for that. When I change it, in order for it to record, I need this and the computer screen to be showing the same thing. Because actually the recording software is not recording the Promethean board, it's actually recording what's on the computer screen. So I hit record and I do the problem up here. You'll hear the sound of the problem, but the picture will be what's on the computer screen, which is like my attendance. Nobody wants to look at that for 20 minutes, okay? So whenever I switch that, then I have to recalibrate. Okay, I will probably say this now in a few videos because we'll ask the question over and over again, right? Yep. So, we are solving two-step equations or even multi-step equations. We have previously learned about PEMDAS. Okay, now some of you also have already been using the expression SADMAP. That's PEMDAS backwards. When we are solving a multi-step equation, we are doing PEMDAS in reverse order. So we are first getting rid of the addition and subtraction. Then we are getting rid of the multiplication division. As we go on in the year, we will then have a situation where we will have exponents. And we will have situations where we have grouping symbols. Okay? We don't have that now. So pretty much, when we do this, you are first going to get rid of your addition or subtraction, and then you're going to get rid of your multiplication or division. Okay, as I said, and this should be, okay? So as I said earlier, I'm going to also deal with fractions as clearing the fractions. Now, you could clear the fraction now, or you could realize, hey, wait a second, let me first get rid of my subtraction. And to do that, I'm going to add 25 to both sides. Because this is subtraction, right? Or you can think of it as a negative. They're the same thing. So, 2/3 P. Do you all get negative 25 and positive 25? Cancels each other out. And 115 plus 25 is 140. Okay? Now I'm going to deal with that fraction. And if you're watching at home for the first time and you don't know how to clear a fraction, I would refer you to the Clear That Fraction video prior in this series. Clear that fraction. They want to say it with me. Clear that fraction. Okay, so what? Sure. The common denominator is 3, correct? Yes. So 3 times 2 is 6 divided by 3.
2.
And what is 3 times 140? Well, if I'm not sure, I can always multiply. It's 420. Okay? So, as far as work goes, I would you should have the original problem, you should have the addition subtraction. In this case, because we're clearing the fraction, you need this. Now, if 2p is equal to 420, how am I going to get rid of that 2?
Divided by 2, both sides.
Divided by 2, both sides. Okay. So, few things. The reason you're adding or subtracting here is because there is what's called a constant term, a number by itself. The reason you're multiplying or dividing when the number is next to the variable is you're trying to separate them. You still want the variable, right? But you don't want the coefficient. You don't want the number in front of it. Question?
So before you had us just do like p equals 400 over, or 420 over 2. Now do we have to actually?
No. So excellent question. So before I was actually doing, I would actually like draw a line here and do 2 and draw a line here and do 2. You don't need to keep doing it.
So
I still want to see this.
So we would divide it by 2.
But you're still dividing it by 2. Oh, I know what you're saying. When I was just saying divide by 2 and leave it like that, that was because if I divided it, it wouldn't be a whole number. So that's a great question. If when I divide it, 420 divided by 2 is 210, right? If I tried to divide 421 divided by 2, I would start getting a decimal, so that's when I would leave it like that. Great question. So again, if you divide and you get a whole number, that's what I want. If you were to divide and get a decimal, then I want that improper fraction. Okay, we got that one?
Yep. Yeah.
Now we're going to go on to the next problem.
Subscribe.
Okay. What is our common denominator here? 7. Oh, by the way, why am I not doing addition or subtraction here first? Okay, because it's grouped in there, so I have to get rid of this first. Okay? Now, 7 times 8 is what?
56.
Now, technically what they want you to do here is distribute and then divide. But if I have a 7 as a numerator and a 7 as the denominator, then they what?
Cancel each other
They
out.
cancel each other out, and I'm just left with x minus 5.
Can I say what the next 7?
Sure.
Add 5 to both
Okay,
sides.
because you're adding, I want to see this. I want to see this where you're writing it on both sides of the equation. 56 plus 5 is 61. Okay? So again, in this one, I had to do the multiplication first to then get that by itself. Okay, let's look at the last one here. Yeah, there's supposed to be lines there. I don't know why they're not showing up. So, on this one, I'm going to clear the fraction first. Could I, and other teachers might say, could I subtract by 3/4 first?
No.
Yeah.
3, right? I actually could, but I want to get rid of those fractions. Okay? So, what is going to be my common denominator for 7, 4, and 2? Okay, you could use 48, but what's a better choice?
28.
28, sorry. You could use 20.
24.
Okay, you said 24, you said 28. Okay, here's the problem with 24. Does 7 divide evenly into 24?
I don't know, I was guessing.
You get, okay, so now you know it's 28. Now, again, we've talked about this. I don't want to multiply 28 by -3, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's like a large number and I don't give, Miss Falk didn't let me have a calculator. So you can also divide and then multiply. What's 28 divided by 7?
4.
4. And what's 4 times -3?
-12.
Okay, again, 28 divided by 4 is
7.
7 times 3 is, if it's too cold in the back there, you can close that door. I don't know who opened it. And 28, well, I could do this either way.
14x.
Either way, this is going to be -14x. I could do 28 times x is 28 divided by 2 is 14. Or I could do 28 divided by 2 is 14. Okay? Now what do I do?
Subtract 21.
Okay. This is a common mistake I see with kids make. That 21 there is positive. So you're subtracting 21 from both sides. Another mistake I see kids make. is they add 12. The problem is that's going to give you 0 on this side. You don't really want that. Okay? So negative 12 minus 21 is what number?
Negative 33.
If you don't know that, you look over here at negative 12 on the number line, right?
Yes.
And we're subtracting.
Negative 21.
Subtracting, we go
Left.
left, that way, 21 spaces, and we get to negative 33. And if, I probably walked too far away for the microphone to pick it up.
I can say.
Okay, so, the next step, so to your question earlier, I can't say your name because there's like all kinds of FERPTA rules or FERPA rules or whatever, okay? If I try and do negative 33 divided by negative 14, first of all, I'm going to get a decimal, correct? So this is going to be an improper fraction. The other thing I want you to get is a negative divided by a negative. That's positive 33 over 14. So let me talk about work here for a moment. If you go from this directly to this, that's fine. If when you divide, you say, Mrs. Falk, I'm not rewriting negative 33 over negative 14 because I know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and I don't want to like write that extra step. I'm fine with that. Okay? If you do write this, then hopefully you're like, oh yeah, 2 negatives equal a positive. So you'll be out sick tomorrow. Okay? Okay. So, do we understand how to do these?
Yes.
Do we understand what's expected in terms of work on these?
Yes.
Okay. I think there's also a word problem. Let's throw that in the video. Oh, let's do this one. We'll put this in the video. Again, why do I not need to recalibrate? Since he just asked me if I had to calibrate. Why do
I thought you
I?
said that once you change the pictures.
No, once I change the display screen here and here. Right now they're the same thing. When we're done and not on video, I'll show you, you've never even realized, that does not usually have the same thing here. It's called extend the screen. It's kind of cool. So, guys, I'm going to go through this one together because, again, this is an error that I see a lot, not just in geometry, but algebra. But if I'm seeing it in geometry, then those poor students did it wrong all last year. So, how do I solve this first? What do I do? Yeah, that's an 11. It doesn't look like it. What do I do first? Yeah.
Divide by 7, right?
No, what do I get rid of first?
3.
The 3. Why?
That was
Get rid of my addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. I'm going to show that work, right? I'm actually writing that. That's why when I said to you, you have to do your homework on a separate sheet of paper. Now, if I divide by both sides, m equals 8, correct? But the problem does not ask me what m is equal to. What is the problem actually asking me?
What is the value of 11?
The value of 11m plus 2. That means I need to take this, and for m, I plug in 8. So on a test, you don't want to miss this because you solved but didn't plug it back in. Question in the
So
back.
is this like f of x now, kind of? But it's m, and you just plug it in?
Okay, f of x is just fancy notation and do substitution.
Okay.
So yes, there is a similarity.
Okay.
Okay? We're not using m instead of f of x per se, but f of x is just one way to tell you to plug something in. Okay? So 88 plus 2 is what? 90. I think there's a word problem. Is there a word problem? No, there's no word problem. So, that is the word problem. So, we are going to, is there a problem on the, ooh, there's a problem on the page?
There's like 20 on the other side.
So that's a one step. I'm not doing the word problem for the one step with you. Unless you really want to.
Nope.
So now you got to hear that end of that video there. I'm going to stop this.